people that were living in there were really old and unable to maintain their property, and it pretty much went to hell. So it got infested with mice so bad. It's not even
We're
funny.
live.
On YouTube.
She's not got.
That's what I found in the kitchen wall when I opened it up. All of the insulation is just mice trails.
I was wondering if it was mold or mouse.
It's mice, yeah.
What house is that?
It's a little trailer house I got on 6th Street and Duke.
Can you see the YouTube feed?
It's getting there. That's what it looks
The
like.
live YouTube? I'm waving to you.
Looks a lot better.
Grandpa.
See, I don't know what I'm doing with these things.
I can hold this. Are we good to go? Can you see us, Mark?
Yeah, I can see you just fine.
Okay.
All right.
All right, we are live.
We are live, okay. It's 5:32, Thursday, June 13th. City Council Chambers, 1103 West Main Street. Call to order.
Council President Kaiser,
Here.
Councilmember Christiansen,
Present?
Councilmember Murray,
Here.
Councilmember O'Meara.
Here.
Okay, can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, council, we got an agenda before us for the workshop. Any questions? Hearing none, I move we approve the agenda posted June 11th at 4 p.m.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, we have a discussion on capital projects and engineering. City staff, treasurer, Ms. Miles will be presenting.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Rob, I'm glad you're able to be with us tonight so that we can go over this budget. Now, since this was presented to you, there have been a couple changes. One change was under the new hires. We were trying to get a grant for an officer and we were not able to do that. So that officer has been removed off of the wage and new hire tab. And so the police just want a detective at this point. They're going to apply for that grant again when we have more time. So it was just a situation where they found out about the grant, but we really didn't have, we tried real hard to go through all the steps to do everything to get it done. We sent a couple people to grant writing courses, one from the police department and our city administrator. And so we will be prepared next year to apply for that grant and have it be for 26.
Okay.
Okay, so that's just one of the changes.
But we're still budgeting for a detective.
We're budgeting for a detective.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and if they decide that they're going to promote from within, then we would be hiring a new police officer
To replace.
to replace the person they promote from within.
Yeah, okay.
But I don't want to start on that tab. I just wanted to tell you that was the changes. Jenica, you have capital, please. Perfect. And then one of the other changes that I put in here is we've had some changes in transportation. So we heard back from the school. I don't know how much of the 9th Street extension project that you guys were aware of, that we had talked to the school about that.
Yes, we were requesting from the school, I believe it was $116,000 to contribute a small portion, and we would pay the rest to continue a sidewalk from one location to the other location for the safety of the children, and they weren't able to act on it, so we're gonna go ahead and pay for it and try to get it done by this next school year.
Didn't we just put sidewalk in with
Yeah, it's just,
Well, I think this was a road extension. We got a good price. I thought they were gonna go,
It was 500 and something, I don't have the documentation for it, but Jason is more aware of the
right, and
exact
Jason will be
money.
here, and he'll be
And-
able to talk to you
Okay,
guys
'cause
better.
we got Safe Schools grant money to put in sidewalk.
We put that in.
Yeah, it's completed.
That's done. We
I thought-
completed that.
so
This
I'm
is
confused.
extending, I didn't mean to confuse you, I'm sorry.
No, I'm confused as well. as to
So, no,
what we're
it's
extending.
9th Street Road.
okay, so we're extending the pavement.
Yes, the
Okay,
road.
all right,
Well,
that's
And
a
I
big
went
difference.
to the school because that's gonna
And-
be a good
and-
spot for
and
drop
some
off, and it will
sidewalk.
relieve some of that traffic
Uh-huh.
on drop off and everything. And asked them if they wanted to partner with us and help do that. And then, they got back to us and the board, didn't vote on it, so,
They didn't vote yes or no, they just didn't vote on it.
Okay, so it wasn't an agenda item.
It was an agenda item, but they chose not to vote at this time. I wasn't there,
Okay,
but,
yeah. So
but,
we,
you know, as council, as all of our council and everybody at City Hall, children come first. I mean,
yeah.
so-
safety and seniors and all of that, we have to be very mindful of. So we have found the money to budget it
No,
in
I
that.
don't have, I'm just
Okay.
confused as to why I thought the Safe Schools grant money was the entire length of sidewalk for the entire 9th Street extension, was my understanding. I don't know, was that?
Can we get back to this when Jason's
I
here?
was under the
yeah, I was
impression
just
it
gonna
was
say, I
square
added that
ended
road
to
extension
bring
in
it
here.
to
Let's circle around.
cemetery.
Let's circle around, Councilman, when Jason gets in.
Okay,
Yep,
all right.
Yep, happy to.
Yeah, so but that's a new item on this from what I sent, what you guys had on June 5th to what you have today, was that we put this 9th Street extension in here for $367,000.
And you're gonna be able to fund that with impact fees?
We believe that we will be able to fund that with impact fees, yes.
Okay,
And so what we have for transportation, we'll start at the top, is the center construction for the roundabout at Middleton Road. That's $275,000, and that is, we believe that's impact fee eligible. Jason is gonna confirm that, if it's on the CIP or not.
okay, do we have a,
Design.
model of what we're actually putting in there?
I believe
Because I
that,
have not seen anything as to what we're actually putting in that situation.
I have pictures, but they're just preliminary pictures. We haven't, the original design that was requested with the last administration came up to about $1.3 million. And I put a stop to that, and we're working it down, and we have a certain amount from last year, I believe it was 100 and something, and then this, we're trying to get it down to 400,000.
Okay,
and I think it was something to do with the bridge.
There'll be a bridge, there'll be
with
some
some
water and
trees.
rocks, but there'll be no plants. I did away with all the plants because I don't want our parks people to have to go out and trim those and clean it
in
up.
the middle of the road.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah. And then the cemetery signal grant, we're gonna carry forward some of those costs. And so that's 680, I believe, on the last worksheet that I gave you guys. I think we were at 500, and then Jason and I talked about it some more, and we thought, well, I'd rather carry forward more. If we get it all spent, it's in this year's budget to do as much as we can with that signal. We know there is going to be some carryover. I would rather carry over a little more or show a little more, and if we don't use it, then we know it's not coming in and we're not spending it, right? We've already spent it. Versus not putting it in here and having to do a budget amendment or short it for some other reason. We have the crossing flashing lights for Cemetery Road at $750,000. And then the 9th Street extension, I'm skipping over the capital equipment because we're gonna scroll down to the bottom to look at that. And extend a bike path at Cemetery Road to Sawtooth for $9,000. And then we have just a toolbox that needs to go on one of the trucks, and that's a capital item, even though it's so small, but it's gonna be part of that truck, so.
I don't know if you want to wait to do more lengthy discussion, or can we do it now?
Well, on the crosswalk at Cemetery, no, but what I would like is, we're budgeting for this, but if somebody can come up with a better and less expensive, idea, then that would be wonderful.
Well, I think going from virtually zero to $750,000 is completely irresponsible. We may as well try a cheaper solution, like something that we put in by the schools, and see if that helps. Because that's half a lighted intersection. And I understand there's a genuine danger to people, and I'm not disputing that. We need something there. But that's only a danger essentially when there's a funeral. That's half the cost of a light that we could put in, which is a danger to every single person all day, all night, trying to get on to Highway 44. And that's half the cost of one of those lights.
And
So
everybody in this room agrees with you. What we're doing is budgeting for 2026, worst scenario, and hoping to come up with something better in the meantime. And that's all of us putting our heads together and getting that done. But in the meantime, if we can't, and there's nothing, because we've talked to lawyers and they've advised us, if there's nothing, then at least we've budgeted for the worst scenario. And yes, costs have just skyrocketed. I agree. $750,000 is.
So
There's a
I have a
crosswalk
question.
headed there before.
Okay,
Mark, Councilman.
yeah,
Go ahead, Councilman.
okay. I agree with what's being said about the $750K. I mean, just looking at the expense as compared to other expenses in that category, it's the highest. And for a crosswalk, to me, there's just simply got to be better options. And in fact, we've spent a lot of time in various cities in the area that I'm in now. And there are options out there that are even in the same category as ours, where they're transecting across the road without an intersection. And so, I haven't heard the liability concerns. I've not been privy to those conversations with council. But what I'm trying to say is that I've seen a lot of crosswalks because I've been noticing them more. I wouldn't have paid attention. But there's variations that I'm sure will not cost $750. That's comment one. Number two is, Mayor, to your comment about it, well, let's budget for $750, but if it doesn't reach $750, let's just say it does $200, what are you going to do with the remainder? Can you move that, Wendy? I don't know if you can just move that from one budget to another, but where would you allocate those funds to go?
First, I wanted to let you all know that in order to fund that, we would be pulling out of savings in order to fund that $750,000. This fund is short right now, and I've got to figure out how to balance it, right? And the only way I would be able to balance it with this $750 in there is from savings. So then, if we didn't use it, to get to your question, Councilman Christensen, is it would not be spent and it would go back into savings.
Okay.
And Mark,
All right.
Councilman Chris Jansen, while you're out and about, could you take pictures of those items, those different opportunities that you've been seeing?
Happy to.
That'd be
I don't know
great.
that we'll be going back to all the same places, but there's one just up the hill here I can take a picture of, and they are all paint with solar-powered lights and roadside, not all, but the ones that I've taken notice of are solar-powered lights that flash in the evening. And the sign itself is there to mark the painted location across the road. But I can take a picture of the one that's nearby here.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say also, I want to preface, just like David did, everybody is concerned about the safety of the people in our community. Everybody is. And I don't think there's any question about that. But it is also, I think that we really do need to settle down settle down, but settle into looking at the various options and make sure that there isn't any liability, not any, but there's always liability, but we reduce the liability to the extent possible. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Do you have another council?
Councilman Murray.
So I mean, they're fairly similar to what we put in by the schools, but has anybody crossed the road at the roundabout down by Riverwalk?
Not much.
Ranch?
I've seen several
That's
people
scary.
cross that.
They're extremely effective. No, because I've
That
walked
is
through there multiple times, including with Carrie when we go for our walks. You push those buttons, the lights come on, it talks to you. It's it's for the sight impaired. Cross, and people stop. Nobody ever just flies by. People stop. So if we put in something like that that's push activated, that flashes lights, and I don't see how we could possibly be more liable at that crosswalk than we are for every single other crosswalk throughout the entire town. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. Why? So anyways, I just want to...
All right, continue.
Yes, well, Jason has arrived, and I know that we had some questions, Jason, before you got here.
Yes.
Regarding the 9th Street extension.
Yes,
So that 9th Street extension, we went to the school, because this is extending the road, not the sidewalks. The sidewalks are done with the grant that we received, right?
correct.
And so, we had asked the school to partner with us, and they did not vote on it, so.
They declined,
Yeah,
yes.
so we put it in this budget, but you're thinking that it could possibly be done in this budget?
The 9th Street connection that would go next to where the sidewalk is, was an idea that we had talked about with the school district last year to see if we could move forward. We did bid that street project with the cemetery signal, and we got a very good price for it.
Okay.
Moving forward, we can authorize the contractor building the cemetery signal, the Knife River project, to move forward and get it built this summer. That would be a very straightforward and simple thing to do. The question is, can we afford it? It is impact fee eligible, so we could fund it with impact fees. I think the original estimate, the engineer's original estimate was 500,000 or so, 10,000, and the actual bids came in a little over 300. I think we're looking at 360, 370 with the construction management oversight to help and get that in there. There is the opportunity to use some of the sidewalk leftover funds of $40,000 that could be put probably towards that project, available now. All told, if the project had come in at the engineer's estimate and the school would have helped us to the tune of what we were asking, about $110,000, it would be about the same cost to the city that this $360,000 cost would be. So we have a really great opportunity to do it now. We have transportation impact fee funds that we could do this. This has considerable benefit to the city by itself. We are constantly searching for east-west connectors outside of 44. We have lots of north-south. We need east-west, and this is a key east-west.
It's kind of a jog around, but it does complete that entire loop all the way to Duff.
It helps us a lot. So there is, I think there could be the case made for the city doing it even without the school district's help. So I tend to take this to council on the 26th.
Okay.
And see if you guys can formally take action on it.
So all the sidewalk is in?
Yes.
Okay, because it was told here, they just
I
said
said-
sidewalk, and that's why I was like, whoa, I thought that was done. So
Yes.
that was our great confusion.
So what was the safety issue with the children that you had mentioned to me?
We funded this project with child pedestrian safety dollars. It was a grant. Sidewalks anywhere in your schools kind of look really good on those kind of programs. We scored actually pretty low on the project, So they funded about the first half, and we were about 2/3 the way down the list. But then the governor came back and said, let's just fund the rest of the list, and we got on there, and so we were able to move forward. We had done some forward thinking on some, had the design done, and we're ready to go. Yes.
Jason, could you point out to us what your general design is gonna be on that road? I mean, we're talking about a curve that comes into Willow Street.
I was wondering the same
There
thing.
is, it will be a road that picks up here, comes around, and comes into basically where that entrance is right now.
So it'll be a slight mismatch with Willow, but not completely off?
I'm not sure. I think it's pretty well aligned because we bought that right away years ago.
Because of the curve right there.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at where the dirt lays now. It's about half and half, you know, it's kind of like that is what it looks like
Yeah.
from here anyways.
if you go out there, you can see the sidewalk, and I believe there's a 5-foot planter strip between the sidewalk and where the edge of the
Yeah.
road is. But I could maybe check that for you
Well,
tomorrow, but it's somewhere right in that alignment.
Aside from the east-west connector, which is really, really important, this will also it'll act as a pressure release valve for the pickup situation
Yes.
at Heights, because now people will be able to leave Heights in 4 directions.
This will be very, very big for Heights. It'll let
Yeah.
parents
Off the
queue up
cemetery.
on here.
Yeah.
The school district has talked about expanding their parking lot here to do bus pickup, which would then give more parent spots for
Yep.
parents in their parking lot. So there's a lot of really good things that happen
That's why we
with that,
wanted this.
with that 9th Street
You know,
connector.
it needs to happen because then we need to push to get the pickup
Yeah.
off of 9th, because it's gonna be a wider road than Cemetery is. And allow that through traffic.
Yes, so it'll get these people here to the cemetery signal. More traffic's coming this way
Yes.
than not.
No,
Councilmember
good.
O'Meara.
No, that
Jason,
answers.
The discussion we've had about the crosswalk at the cemetery comes into play on this situation because you're making an intersection at the bottom of that hill.
Yeah.
So the same safety concerns come up to me as what you're describing being the problem with the crosswalk. Okay, now we're making an intersection at the bottom of the hill. Students are going to be able to cross at that intersection,
Yes.
but it's at the bottom of the hill. So,
Correct. But it's at an intersection, and people are a little more attuned to finding, to anticipate pedestrians crossing at intersections.
Are we gonna have a 4-way stop?
I believe it'll be 2-way stop. Well, it'll stop 9th and
okay,
Willow.
that was what I was wondering, is how we were going to regulate traffic at that intersection.
So I've got a crazy question for you, Jason. You said you included this road construction in the bid for cemetery, correct?
Yes.
For the light? Is it possible to extend that to whatever, if we can move quickly enough, whatever we decide to do at for the crosswalk at cemetery, and whoever does those 2 projects can take care of
No.
a crosswalk? No.
No, that design for cemetery has not even been started.
Okay.
That's a significant amount.
You've already got your completed drawings for this.
We have completed drawings,
Okay.
it's been bid, we have a bid schedule, it's an alternate bid schedule that we can award later. So we have talked to them, they have a price quote to us, bonding in place, design is done, it's
It's ready to go.
Yeah.
it is
I
ready to go.
kind of assumed that's what you were going to say, but I thought I'd better try.
I definitely applaud you guys on moving forward with this because that's really going to help our traffic.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you. That's just-
been needed for quite some time.
Yes, and the council's ability to fund the design ahead of time has enabled us to be ready to do this, so we thank you as well.
Okay.
Council, just FYI, it's hard for me to understand Jason loud enough, but it's, I wouldn't say garbled, but hard to get clarity. Maybe, sometime, after the meeting, say tomorrow or whenever, Jason, you could give me a little bit of a brief of what you just talked about, or one of the council members.
I'm always glad to do that. I moved my laptop between the speaker and me, so maybe this is a little better, but my apologies for not being clear, and I'll be glad to go over with you what I covered tomorrow or early next week.
Okay,
And I had some comments on capital expenditures, if and when the time is the right time.
We're on transportation right now.
Yeah, we haven't got past transportation yet, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
If they're transportation related, are we ready for them now?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it might be. It has to do with the Middleton Road extension there by the eye clinic, and I'm not sure what the status of that is. If that falls under transportation or one of the other areas in the capital budget category.
The extension of
Yeah.
Middleton Road.
If you'd like me to speak to that.
Yes, please, Jason.
The first part of the roadway between the roundabout and Boise Street is being constructed by a developer in conjunction with a Riverwalk phase. So that particular section does not need city funding at this time. They're doing 2 lanes of what will someday be 4 lanes. So we'll think about that years down the road when Middleton Road gets to 4 lanes all the way. The section from Boise to Star Road, or excuse me, to
Cross 44.
to 244, what is now is that Knight Street? No, that's no, it's got a different name.
Right here.
Oh,
Yes.
Murphy.
Murphy, thank you, Murphy Street. That project is a little delayed, or is sort of on hold right now, as one of the main Pell's alternatives that they are looking at could significantly impact that area. So that's one of the reasons that we're a little slow on not being anxious to do something immediately with that. We have talked about, before the Pell's was fully underway, when Middleton connects to Murphy, and there's theoretically more traffic. No, where you were was good, actually, Jenica.
Okay, sorry.
When that connects to Murphy, is there a possibility for an interim improvement to make that function a little better than it does now, to accommodate sort of interim traffic? And that would require acquisition of right-of-way from the eye doctor, or the property on at least the west side, possibly some on the east, but more likely a little strip along the west side. We have had that in the budget for this year, for the current budget, 23-24 fiscal budget, but don't anticipate spending that because we don't have a good idea from ITD of what those interim improvements could look like, which then means we can't really design an interim improvement, which means we can't really buy the right away. So when all that gets clarity, we will be back to talking about budgeting for right-of-way acquisition, likely as one of the next steps in addressing this area. But we've had it in the 24-25 budget, but we took it out because realistically we're not sure that the Pell's process will get us clarity in time to then move forward with getting direction on an interim improvement, which will then get us time to buy right away. Doing all that before October of 2025 seems less realistic at this point, so it is not in the budget for next year.
And am I correct in, when you're looking at extending 9th Street, the money that you're going to use from this year's budget, 24's budget, is some of that impact fee that we've budgeted this year for that we're not going to do? And that's how he feels that we might be able to do that extension, because we have funds in this year's, when I say this year, I'm talking 24, and the budget we're talking about tonight is 25. That's part of where he's going to be able to, when he comes before you to talk about that, that's where he's
We
going to be able
could
to get
spend
those
that money
funds
without requiring a budget amendment this year to do that.
for that.
Okay, Jason, if I could, Mayor, One little quick question. You said the developer is going to go ahead and install 2 lanes at this time. And
That was
so
the
is he
la-
going to connect all the way to Boise?
I think that is graded in right now. I don't know how forward they are moving today. I think it's been graded in a couple months ago, and I have not seen a truck out there.
I remember hearing him
Lanes.
speak during one of our meetings that he was planning on paving that this year. So does that actually complete that connection to Murphy? And
That would-
Murphy becomes
That
a
would get
road at that time?
from the roundabout to Murphy.
Right.
I don't have an update on that.
Okay.
Particularly, Roberta and Amy's office typically work more closely with developers on their immediate plans, and I just do not have an update myself.
I'm sorry, I was scribbling notes here and I missed something. Are you talking about north-south from the roundabout to Murphy, or were you talking about
Yes.
Boise
From right
Street
there
east
to
to
Murphy.
44?
The roundabout, New Middleton north to what is now Boise Street.
You're
Which-
saying that they're anticipating hopefully doing that this year? Is that what you guys are saying?
It's possible. I don't have a definitive update on that.
Okay.
There was work on it a couple months ago, and I haven't seen anything
But that's
out
the
there.
developer's project, not
Correct.
ours.
That's with this work, and I don't know.
Okay. Thank you, Jason.
Okay, let's move on. So, Art, are you ready to move on, or did you have any other questions?
I couldn't really get a lot of that, but I do have some other capital expenditure questions, but not related to transportation.
Okay, thank you. So major maintenance in transportation, one of the large ones is a road repair at east of North Middleton Road, west of Park Harmon area, $286,000. We have some pavement repairs, Dewey culvert replacement, lining, some seal coating on some roads.
Oh,
Okay. Are you having trouble hearing me? Hopefully not.
If you're asking me, everybody's fine. I just can't understand Jason real well.
Oh, okay, thank you.
okay,
You have to turn and face your.
all right.
Yeah, no pun intended there, Jason. It's all right.
Some seal coating roads, some road striping, some miscellaneous. We are replacing LED lights in all the streets. We've been doing that project for a while. Providence Avenue, Culvert, Highland Drive, and general maintenance, and that comes to about 1.2 million. But let's go back up here where it says capital equipment, buildings, and sweepers. And so this, where you see this 435 is if you scroll to the bottom of this spreadsheet, we have public works equipment, fleet, buildings, 2025. And then as you go over, you see how these things are split between the
going.
different departments.
Hang on.
Oh.
Can you hang on just a second?
Yes.
Let's connect you.
Oh, you want to
Here,
connect me?
let's connect you. That will make life so much easier. There is your thing right here. Okay. You should be able, do you mind?
Go ahead, yeah. You're the tech person here.
You should be able to duplicate your screen.
Oh, I think I have to go down to here, don't you?
Okay.
Say no to that. Hit this little square. That,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
And now say,
Try just disconnecting from the monitors.
While they're doing that, Jason, can I ask you a question here?
Yes,
This is general, it's not specific. When it says impact fee eligible, does that mean that impact fees will be used for that proposed thing or may be used for that
may
thing?
be used for that thing. The impact fees are governed by a capital improvement plan.
Right.
That is adopted by,
yes.
it's commonly known as the Mid-Star Plan. To spend money that has been collected for impact fees, it has to be something that was on that plan.
Go
So
to
there are
E.
specific projects, and there are even technical, sometimes there's technical things about specific projects that say portions of the project are eligible and portions are not.
So let me ask you this, because there's a good number of things that are impact fee eligible. Let's say that we decide to keep all those things on here,
Yes,
but the impact fees can't pay for everything.
correct.
Will funds still get pulled from somewhere to pay for those projects, or will those projects no longer be done?
That is a good question for council,
You'd have to come to us to get authorization to use other funds?
the council can discuss that. For instance, the Hartley Signal was funded partially with impact fee funds and partially with pro rata funds and partially with developer contributions.
Hartley Signal?
Yes, the Hartley Signal we did a year and a half.
Oh, okay.
That one had a number of funding sources, but part of it, the part outside of the SH-44 right-of-way, could be funded with impact fee funds.
Yeah, because there's certain things on here that I support as long as they can mostly come from impact. I just don't want, I don't want to see a bunch of funds get pulled from elsewhere without it.
Yes.
You know.
So some projects, if you run out of impact fees, could be funded with both impact fees and general funds.
Okay. Sorry, I was
That's
just-
okay. I
Thought you
wasn't paying attention to your conversation, so I'm lost with what you guys are talking about, so I can't speak to that. But anyways, back to, now I'm hooked up. So what's in transportation? So we have a 4x4 plow pickup, that's 100% in streets. So where you see this transportation right here, there's the 435,000 that's up top. And this is what it consists of. So a sweeper vac truck that we've been saving for every year. We're hoping to buy it, not in this 25, but in 26. But we've been saving for it now for, I think 3 years.
I think this would be the second year, because we did.
Second year this year, but this will be the third year. 25 will be the third year, right?
I think that might be the second year, actually.
I think it's the third year. But anyways, we have a roller trailer for 9,000, and we are starting to save for a new city hall. And so this is transportation's portion of saving 400,000. A side-by-side, and multiple departments use it, so you'll see that that's spread across, so different things. And then
If I could talk about, would you let me talk about the specific equipment?
if they, yeah,
The top one, the plow truck, is our heaviest duty truck. We have a 350 or 450, one of those in the fleet that we put the plow on in the winter. That is one of our older trucks, actually. I think it's an 02 or 03, and it's pretty worn out. We just replaced the back suspension. I'm gonna ask Wendy to replace the front suspension here, shocks and stuff, because we gotta get it through this winter anyways. That truck is really end of life and is a critical part in our fleet, so that's why we're suggesting to replace that here. The sweeper truck, again, that's the large sweeper truck that we spent a lot of money fixing this last year. That is a complicated and needed piece of equipment. I think we actually fixed the Pelican this year, but this is the larger street sweeper that we fixed last year. We're reaching end of life on these things, and we need to keep saving to replace them. Our roller trailer, you'll see that's 9,000 is a third of that. That is our large roller. Doesn't work well going up the ramps to the bigger trailers, and it's kind of over limit of what we can haul. So we need a trailer that has a little more capacity that can get that roller around safely and make it a little easier to load. The new city hall is beginning to save for the streets portion of that. The side-by-side, we've talked about some side-by-side needs in the past. Before we had it in the wastewater division, we've kind of decided that if we do a little bit of work and keep our side-by-side that we use for spraying now, we could move that to the treatment plant, but get a new one that's capable of plowing and putting some salt down on some of our trails and our parks. So that's the thinking behind that one. And then what is that last?
The last one is the shop crew space, but you know how, because Excel does weird things where it cuts off my thing.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't know why it's
it does that sometimes.
Yeah.
This is, right now, if you've been down to where our crews sit, they're in a room that is really out of space. We are elbow to elbow in there. There's desks, and I don't even think we have space for desks, a place for people to sit for our summer help. They need a little better space. They need, right now, there's one single bathroom with a single stall for the whole crew. There is lockers for about half of them. There's not really adequate space for the washer and dryer and just crew space. If you go down there, we pack that little
Are you
spot out.
talking up to the right of the shop warehouse area where they have their desks and all that?
Correct.
Yeah, it's
So-
pretty tight in there.
Pretty tight. Our plan, we have shied away from expanding the footprint of the buildings. We've kind of done that in the past, and we kind of look like a shanty town down there with all of our little buildings. So this is sort of an interim solution that we're looking at to rebuild the crew space kind of on the back side of the bathroom wall. Extend that where there's some shelving right now. We'll have some storage space up above, and we'll be tighter maybe where our vehicles are parked, but that would allow us to have some actual office and desk space and some washer, dryer, locker space, maybe a second bathroom or a shower that for when people get too dirty, they have somewhere to get the muck washed off them. So that $200,000 is sort of our first budget number of what we're looking at. I think most of that work can be done with our crews. This is a great wintertime project because it's kind of indoors, and the new crew we have is pretty talented folks with some general contracting experience. We will probably need to get an architect to give us a little bit of help and make sure, since we're going to have storage on top and we're going to have some occupied space, and we have a building department that we like to not avoid, that would make everyone else follow their rules. We should probably follow their rules as well. So that's our plan, and glad to take any questions.
Vehicle replacement above it?
That is for sewer.
What are we replacing there?
I'm not sure. Recall what that is. Let's see.
I think
Reserves. It's
Oh,
a reserve.
Yeah.
Okay, saving for the next.
Yes.
We've looked at what the value of our fleet is in sewer, and kind of taken the purchase price, brought it forward to today's value, and then looked at what we need to save for the next 20 years if we're going to replace all those vehicles within 20
No,
years.
that makes
So
sense.
So
I
we
just
have
didn't-
the.
this is, since we don't have other vehicles in sewer this year, putting that money away is a good start. We probably need to do that with water and other things as well. Streets, we're spending enough here this year that we're doing that.
No, it makes sense to me. We skipped over it. That's why I was like.
Councilmember Murray?
Two things, one lighter, one heavier. On the lighter side, I noticed there's a shed for sale that was built by carpentry students from, I'm assuming the high school. If this is gonna be a wintertime project that mostly your crew's gonna be doing, do you think it would be possible to reach out to school and offer to have them come down and maybe do whatever they could with what knowledge they have and learn from the work you guys do? Does that sound like something that's feasible? Carpentry students from the high school, no?
It's certainly anything's possible.
It's workman's comp, and it's also liability because they're minors especially, but it's a great idea.
I just like them to get some kind of real world
They have a
experience.
class with, they built all those sheds and they got grant money coming to build a shop back there so that they can, because I've seen all the stuff that the guy's been buying. But it's a general, it's a lifetime skills kind of class, I guess you would say.
I had a similar crew from the job corps come in, construct the abutments for the first bridge in Foot Park. It took them forever to do it,
What
but it
if,
was free labor.
Yeah.
what if I took care of the heavy lifting, went to Mark, asked if they're interested, if they are, their attorney can work out like liability release, whatever, from
Yeah.
parents. Would you be willing to take them at that point?
Well, we could consider it, and maybe as we move forward and what we're gonna do, it perhaps could be good to have some extra hands to help our crew. One of the things that comes to mind is, since we've got crew actively working in that space, we kind of need to get it done in a pretty timely manner,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So, but we'll consider anything.
I just thought it'd be a good opportunity for them to have some kind of real world experience. The second thing is $400,000 in that group,
Oh, you want me, yours to go back down here, sorry. Go back down,
the heavier of the two items.
this one. The reserves for a new city hall.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
It's
And
gonna,
I know we're not there yet, but throughout the rest of this, there's additional funds dedicated to that for, I think, a total of, oh boy, let me see here. $1,372,262, does that sound about right?
so a new city hall campus, it would be including everybody, well, police, library, administration, would probably be about $11 million. So if we're gonna save for it, then we've gotta start saving.
Well, I mean, I love the idea of a new city hall, but before we build a new city hall, we have a lot of infrastructure projects that need doing all over town. I mean, we have lights, we have sidewalks need to be finished, trail systems need to be coming. There's a lot of infrastructure needs.
Yeah.
So, from what I've been told, if we don't get this started in the next 2 or 3 years, the price is gonna double. And the first week I was at City Hall, I was like, this isn't legal, it's not up to code. There's one bathroom, there's lines at city council meetings, there's no working windows, and we keep adding on and moving all our services. And if there's an opportunity within the budget, then let's start saving. And I don't believe it's gonna cost 11 million, but being as it's government, I'm not saying that it's not. But I believe in saving for projects and having large down payments and having it within your budget and not without your budget, and not having to go to the taxpayers and ask for money when they're already burdened at this time. So I see no logical reason not to save money if we're earning interest on it, or got it somewhere where we can.
So when I put money in a budget like this for a future savings, what I'm doing is taking current revenue that's coming in to the budget in this 25's budget year and saying, of the money that's coming in, we're gonna save this much. So whether that's for a vehicle, whether that's for a new city hall, that's how I save it. So at that point, it's not earning interest
Okay.
because it's gotta come in. But then as it moves out of this budget, you know, as that money comes in for the year and we don't spend it, there's where it's going into savings and it's earning interest.
Okay.
But if we're gonna work off a rough estimate of, let's just say 10 million for a new city hall, and if we're gonna save on average 1.3, 1.4 million, and the cost is gonna go up over the years, we're looking at saving for a decade to build a new city hall, a decade in which we could have been building out the infrastructure of this town.
So I agree with what you just said, except that it's not gonna take 10 years. We're hoping to break ground somewhere in the next 3 or 4 years. 1, and 2, we're going by history here. In the past, we've tried to pass school bonds, and we've all known that they didn't go through. And the price of schools, in some cases, have almost doubled over the years. We're trying to avoid that burden on the taxpayers. And 1, there's a possibility of getting the land donated, which is a great thing. And we have land for it that the city owns. And we'll have 3 places that will be in one location And the librarian, Lori, has said that she feels that she can talk to a lot of people and have donations for a large portion of her part of it. So right now, we're just in the talking stages. And just like if you're going to purchase a home over the next 2 or 3 years, you're in the talking stages, you start to save. And that's what this is all about and nothing else.
Well, I understand all of that, and I don't disagree that a new city hall would be nice, but I also don't see how we can break ground on a new city hall. It's gonna cost, again, we're gonna lowball and say $10 million in 3 to 4 years, when we will only have saved half of that. So we're gonna start a project that we don't have the funds to complete and hope that they come from somewhere. We have projects that will literally save lives, save traffic accidents, save work for our fire, medical, and police.
That's why we're having a budget workshop. So of course, as a new administration comes in, that administration is going to have their ideas of what they want to spend the money on, right?
That is true.
So this new administration has ideas for a new city hall building and has asked that it get put in the budget. And that is what this is, and that's why we're having this budget workshop, is to discuss this. And if that's something that the council feels that it should come out, then we take that out.
Well, we'll have to see where it all balances. That's what it's gonna come down to. If it don't balance, then we know where we can make cuts.
Thank you. Any more questions? Oh, one more thing on transportation is the land acquisition. So we have $550,000 for the quarry roundabout. Are you guys familiar with where the quarry roundabout?
This is we have an agreement for the quarry development south of Boise River. That development will put in a roundabout opposite where the access road to the Puget Sound Energy Storage spot. So right there, they will build a roundabout if we can provide them the land. We can acquire the land, and it needs a little bit of land on the east side. They will donate the land on the west side. If we can't provide that land in a certain time, then they are required to build a signal there instead of a roundabout.
That's what I was gonna ask. I was gonna say, I swear I remember a signal being in that DA, not a roundabout.
A roundabout would be, I think, preferable by all parties, but
Yeah, but
we gotta get some land.
wasn't Lincoln Road on that DA as well?
There's a separate talk about Lincoln Road. We'll talk about that in a minute. But
Okay, sorry.
the particular one we're looking at, that line item is for this right-of-way acquisition, which we're waiting for them to give us the layout of what land they think they would need for that roundabout. Once we have that, we already have a right-of-way consultant on board to make the offer on the city's behalf and begin the right-of-way acquisition process.
Do we know what, if anything, right now is planned for that northeast quadrant of that intersection?
We don't. I don't believe we have had any development application come in on that.
I'd ask because I think
Yes.
it would affect whether or not we would want to force them to move towards a light or let a roundabout happen. Because that development's gonna have, what is it, like it was hundreds and hundreds. I mean, it was a lot.
That was all speculation. Nothing's come to fruition.
Yes.
There's been a lot of talk about it, but that's it.
Okay.
Yes.
Are we talking 3 separate landowners here on that intersection?
I don't think we're gonna need anything from the gravel pit side, south of the Puget Sound access road. The Idaho Power access road. The Idaho Power access road will be a fairly straightforward acquisition for them. They'd probably prefer a roundabout anyways, and it'll be fairly straightforward. The property to the north, we'll tell them that this will be a huge benefit for when they go to redevelop. I suspect they'll still want every penny they can get from us, because most people do. And so we will have that discussion, and that's most of what we're looking at here. Everything on the east side is part of the quarry project, so we don't need that land acquisition.
Right. Okay.
So that is the capital part, that's capital now. I want to switch over to the engineering tab. And,
If I could I run through that capital list?
sure.
I was hoping to do that before we kind of diverted into, just to talk about our list. So, road repairs east of North Middleton Road, west of Harmon Park, that is the drain line that plugs up because it has tree roots growing through the middle of it. And when the tree roots get big enough that it plugs the line, when the irrigation water comes on, we have a flood in the Borup intersection. We did a lot of money cleaning that out a year and a half ago. The drainage district was somewhat interested in, the line kind of runs through the backyards right here. The drainage district was interested in helping with that project. We were going to partner together. Probably nobody really knows how to fix the pipe because we could clean it out, but we'd probably want to seal it up so it didn't happen again. But if we seal it up, it kind of doesn't function as a drain pipe for the area that the drainage district purpose is to drain the area so the houses aren't swampy. So we haven't figured out a solution yet, but we got it clean enough that enough water goes through this last summer that it hasn't been a problem. So we kind of expect it to be a problem someday in the future that we're not sure how we'll address. Maybe as early as next year. Cleaning out the pipe would be really cleaning out the pipe would be somewhere in that higher $280,000 range, which is why we've included it in the budget.
Are you talking roots and?
Yes,
just-
it looks like a tree trunk growing through the
Okay.
middle of the pipe.
Okay.
Is it a perforated pipe or a concrete pipe?
It's a concrete pipe, but it doesn't have any gaskets in the joints, so
Right, that's the
it's
ditch
supposed
company's
to,
usual way to build them.
kind of supposed to let things
Especially
grow
with
through
water
the
in.
edges.
In the 60s.
And
Didn't you bring pictures? Is this the one that?
this is the one we have pictures of.
That it's like, who's going to crawl through the pipe with a chainsaw? Right?
Yes.
Is that what the situation?
That's what,
I do, little guy.
that is,
I
we do
No,
have
Hayden's a kid.
summer help,
Kind
but
of Vietnam vet. They used to go down to those beaches.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
there you go.
it's a challenge. Really, the streets in this area and the sidewalks need some help in the future as well. This is one of the older areas of town that has some more sidewalks or streets in need of repair. But we kind of like to get a solution to this drainage problem before we spend a lot of money on the roads. We also have some smaller 2-inch galvanized water mains through here that we would like to upgrade someday. And we have sewers in the back of the properties that really should be moved to the front of the properties. So there are some other larger projects in this area that we are not tackling in this budget. Just so we are all aware of the things that are coming down the line and things we kind of need to be saving for. Councilmember.
I was going to do you a solid even before you mentioned that. Is this the same area where all those roads need to be replaced, the $2 million project?
This is one of the projects, correct, in our pavement management plan
Yeah.
that was too far gone to really warrant chip seals or seal coating.
So I just wanted to make the rest of council aware if they're not. There's how many square blocks is it, Jason?
Oh,
That red area that you showed me that one time.
yeah, it's kind of, we did something on this half of this side of Middleton Road a number of years ago. This side still needs help.
So there's a section of Older Town Council that the roads cannot be
Yes.
repaired. They have to be completely replaced, and it's a cost right now of about $2 million, correct?
Probably for just the roads. We'll probably need to also address some sewer things. We'll probably also need to address some the water lines. We'll probably also need to address sidewalks. Sidewalks may actually be a candidate, would be a type of project that could be funded through an LID, but that would take some other thinking and,
Yep.
but it's an option. As we're looking for all options to solve this, that might be one that could be talked about.
It's going to be a big investment.
Yes.
How much have we got
And
saved with that so far? Do we
Mayor, Council, Mark, I still have a couple of capital projects questions, just whenever the time is right.
Yeah.
And I'll preface by saying that I'm asking questions that have already been covered and I couldn't hear it clearly. just let me know. Pardon that if I am. One of the things I wanted to chat about was the Riverwalk Park funds. Other than the 100K that I saw for the planning that we've already talked about that was allocated, are there any other funds for Riverwalk Park that are required for this fiscal year, expenditure by the city, number one, and question two would be the monies that are received through the Knife River. I'm not sure what you call that, but they're taking the rock out and so on. We're getting reimbursement through that process from Knife River, through Knife River. So with the income there and any expenditures that we may need, is there any budgetary notations that need to occur other than the 100K that's there?
Councilmember Christensen, this is Jason, and I'll try and talk so that you can't hear my answer either again.
Okay.
But the expenditure plan for that was recently approved is the main expenditure that we are going to be looking at in the very near future. That is really the only expenditure we have in Riverwalk Park in this next budget, specifically to Riverwalk Park. The gravel revenues, I spent a day and a half this past week sorting through and understanding that. And I have a handy little graphic that I'm planning to bring to council here next week or the following week that'll kind of talk us through how much gravel royalties we have received, are receiving, and anticipate we may receive. And the very short story is that the royalties will, all the royalties we receive will basically be the cost of the roundabout right there. So there's no real windfall otherwise from the gravel royalties. But we'll talk about that in some more detail if we can forego that.
Perfect, and thank you I can hear you very clearly now. Thank you.
That was Jenica. She moved the phone over for me.
Oh, go ahead.
Jenica moved the phone over. So if we could scroll up to the transportation projects and let me talk through a little more of what else is on that list. So that whole Harmon area was the number one project. The number two project, we got some money in there because utility things tend to happen that sometimes require us do some street work with them, and this is a way to kind of partner together as those sort of come up that we aren't anticipating. The Dewey Culvert replacement is the project about 200 feet north of the police station. That pipe is a culvert that's failing. We tried to fill it up with some foam a couple of years ago, and that has worked for a couple of years, but we need a longer term solution. We have had Keller engineers design us a solution to that. They have helped us work through the Corps permit, the drainage district permit, the design of how we're going to do that and fit that in with the utilities in the roadway. And we are actually ready to bid that project. I have the final agreement with the drainage district, I think, on your agenda for the 26th of this month. When that comes in, we've been budgeting this for a number of years. When that comes in, we could bid this and potentially fix this problem here in the fall coming up. So we're pretty excited about being able to move forward with that job. The Dewey Culvert replacement, that was the Dewey Culvert replacement. Our pavement management plan has talked about continuing to seal coat our roads. That we've got another allowance for doing that and chip sealing. Money may need to adjust between those a little bit depending on if we're going to do a little more chip seal or a little more seal coating next year. But those are just sort of baseline budget numbers to keep us moving forward with our roads according to the plan that we had put together last year. Roadway restriping, that we just have areas that need some restriping, so we've got that as a major maintenance item. Miscellaneous repairs and unexpected things. Some of those go to equipment purchases. That's the street signs, some street sign stuff, we just tend to spend about that much on things that are maintenance things that we don't call out. We have a line in there for sidewalk, curb, and gutter repairs. Our crews end up doing 2 or 3 sections of roadway panels throughout the year. A sidewalk section somewhere where a water main breaks, or I know we've got a driveway approach our crew needs to get on this year over by the library. $20,000 or what's that? $20,000 is not going to fix all our sidewalks, but it does get us enough that our crew can fix 1 or 2 things as they come up on the air.
Jason, may I comment on that?
Yes, please.
I'm sorry if I interrupted your phone, there's a lag here. Again, in our walkabouts here, I've been doing a lot of it with our, here in Utah with family stuff, and I can tell you that our sidewalks are not as good as some, but they're certainly not as bad as others. But one of the comments I heard in the last council, or a couple of comments from some of the folks from the audience, was repairs and expensive repairs. And what is common here, and again, I didn't really pay attention to it much until after that meeting, but what they do is they grind the high side of a disparate 2 sections of concrete, and they do it with a grinder that you can actually, it doesn't look bad, it doesn't look brand new, but it's really quite effective, and they use that a lot here. So I don't know what kind of repairs we're talking about, but I know that the folks from the audience that got up and spoke, I don't know what repair they were talking about. It was ultra expensive, but it seems to me, having viewed it myself, it seems to be a pretty reasonable alternative. But I'm not in your business. I just thought I'd throw that out.
Yes, Councilman Christensen, that's great question. We do have a sidewalk grinder that our crew uses at times, and we have ground out lips in sidewalks throughout town, and we have a list of areas that we're going to hit. That really only works for about 1/4 of an inch or a 1/2 inch. Once you get more than that, or you start taking out enough of the sidewalk that then it cracks, and oftentimes it's because of root, and so you may take it down a 1/2 inch, but then the next year the root pushed it up another 1/2 inch. So
Right.
we are aware of that and are doing that approach. One thing, a former city of I worked for bought a sidewalk sucker. It was a really big vacuum that sat on the end of a forklift or and would go down and suck the panel and lift the whole panel up and pull out of the way so you could tear out the roots. So it's kind of an ingenious way.
You can lift up a side.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've moved huge chunks of concrete
Yeah.
before.
How much is a sidewalk sucker?
I have not got a good price on a sidewalk sucker, but
Panels.
I've had Daryl looking into it. It's just another idea. There's a number of ideas on how to fix things. The residents that were in last week were looking at their HOA replacing sidewalk panels, and we're having trouble finding contractors that want to do that for them. And it is, perhaps we don't have the best reputation ever. We're working on getting a better reputation for contractors, but we do have some requirements about not, if we think they're going to be working our city, to get some damage deposits down and assurances that they won't walk away with our sidewalks in worse shape than they came. But that's not really the topic here. I think they ended up finding somebody that would grout underneath the sidewalks and put some foam to kind of lift up the edges.
Yeah. Well, so happens that I live in that HR in that subdivision, and the ones that I've seen have been maybe a 1/2 inch at most, and certainly a candidate for grinding and other things. But I'm not here to question that. I just mainly wanted to throw out what I'd seen, and I'm sure that it's something common in your experience. Just thought I'd throw it out there on that.
Yes. Our sidewalks do need help, and it may be something in future years that our council decides we need to reprioritize thinking about sidewalks. But I think right now we're on a very logical path of fixing some other things around the city as our priorities. So again, it's council decisions, and that's why we're here, but, Councilmember Murray,
Slightly on topic, slightly off topic. Would you say that Dewey is one of our worst and most unsafe roads in town?
We talked about them recently for changing of speed limits, and Chief Smith had some comments on that.
he did.
Well, not just
Yeah.
speed, I mean the condition of the
And the
road, how
condition.
narrow it is, the
Yeah.
lack of sidewalks, so
Truthfully, Dewey, most of Dewey is fairly wide, at least, the section around
The
the police
south
station.
end of it.
The south end of Dewey is fairly wide, and, except for this dip is maybe the most pronounced,
It is, it's very pronounced.
very pronounced spot, and it's causing some sinkage on the, one side of the curb, and I think on the other as well. So this is a particular area worth fixing this before it becomes worse and caves
There's a
in.
truck in it.
We have an emergency.
If council decided it wanted to work on Dewey, if we agreed
Yeah.
that it needs some love, how much would you ask for it to bring it up to an acceptable level of safety and, I mean, sidewalk connections, possible widening of spaces? How much, I mean, obviously not exact ballpark, what would you ask for that investment?
How far are we going? How far are city limits?
I don't know how
City
far.
limits goes out to, Powell's place.
So,
It's just south.
just past the
South
curve?
Powell's place, yep. Randy and City are out.
I mean, where it rejoins the subdivisions, I think it's
Triangle
better,
there.
but it's kind of that area, would you agree to?
Yeah.
The south.
Well, you're
of
gonna
this
get
road.
curb, gutter, and sidewalk in that new subdivision.
Yeah.
There-
So
gonna
the
do
only
something.
part you're gonna be missing curb, gutter, and sidewalk in is from the bottom of the hill to, Third Street.
Yeah,
And I think you have it, part of it on one side of the street, right?
When they,
The
you
bottom
have a
half.
sidewalk on the
Yeah.
west side,
Yeah,
but nothing on the east.
and I probably shouldn't speculate, because I'm not real great with estimates off the top of my head, but I'm recalling when we were doing, some URD planning, we were about $1.5 million a mile for general roadway. And I don't recall if that's lane mile or roadway mile, it might have been.
I can measure that distance if you'll give me a second. Can I try?
Yeah.
Well,
It's,
it's way less than a mile.
Oh,
yeah,
So Tim, how far south would you say we should go looking at this general idea? Where would you want to start?
As far as curb, gutter, and sidewalk?
And improvement of the road. I mean, you live there, so.
Yeah, I would, the road is in good shape beyond, well, actually that culvert.
about third.
sucks. Yeah, it's about third.
except for the culvert that we gotta
Yeah,
replace.
but up to Third definitely needs to be repaved. It's cracked up really bad.
Yeah,
You have some, road changes just a little further up past the Foots place where they did a water line a couple years ago.
yeah,
So you got some deviations in the asphalt there, but, all of that is without curb, gutter, and sidewalk.
So that's only like a quarter mile?
Quarter, fifth, yeah. It's not that.
Not even that, I don't think. We're talking maybe 3 city blocks.
Well, right there, it's 1,157 feet from Third to just past Minot.
yeah.
5,682.
And you're gonna have curb, gutter, and sidewalk from Minot down to, the old mill
Yeah,
location.
so we'd have to do
Because
sidewalk.
that developer's required to put in the sidewalk on the foot side of the property.
This section, right, with the.
Yes.
development
He's
coming
gotta
in,
do
yes.
that, and then he's gotta go past Gardner's place, which is above the ditch, on down, there's down to the sign on, where the old mill used to sit, that little green spot right there, he's required to do that one too.
Okay,
Does the DA require the ditch work too?
I don't know on the ditch work, but they were out there talking about the ditch 2 days ago.
Just click that
I
next.
saw them have Alan Funkhauser out there, so I think they have to widen that bridge,
okay.
but I'm not gonna guarantee that part of it.
The expensive part of roadways is usually the right of way. So
Purchasing.
we would need to kind of figure out what kind of section we want and then how many of these properties we need along the way.
Yeah, you're
If I remember
pretty
right,
open there. That's Foots and Davis's own that little section of ground there, so.
Is there any sidewalk along
There's-
South Dewey right
There is a
here?
sidewalk up to 3rd Street on the west
The
side,
west side there.
Let me zoom in a little bit
not
now.
on the east side.
Sidewalk
Our
on this
former
side.
mayor decided that that lady that put in that house right there didn't need to put in curb gutter and sidewalk when she developed.
Yeah.
So she has gravel or washed rock out there.
Yeah.
Council, do you think that we can put that off, or do we want to look at possibly funding some improvements on that road next year? I mean, just a possibility.
I don't know that that is impact fee eligible. In fact, I'm pretty confident that it's not.
Okay.
So you're funding it out of property tax, state tax, or state revenue share, which is gas tax stuff. There's some state tax, sales tax, a small part of revenue share, that comes in.
there's highway funding
There's highway funding.
from the state.
But we did have
From
a
the state.
surplus from last year, right? So we have some excess funds.
You have some in reserves.
Okay.
So as the ballpark figure, you get about 2 million in revenue, is that? And we spend about,
We're gonna get 3 million in property tax revenue,
Uh,
I'm anticipating.
incidentally, our friends at Highway 4 are now collecting their levy differently, so we don't get $100,000 of the general levy that,
122.
120 that if they were collecting it as a general levy, we would get a share. Since they're not, they're collecting it as a special levy, we get nothing. So we'll need to talk
That was
about,
kind of them.
we'll need to talk
Well,
about
I mean,
that.
they're gonna be doing more work, but, you know, what future is future.
We budgeted 80,000,
Just-
being conservative, we got 128,000 last year. We budgeted 80,000 in '24's budget. When only 1,200 came in, I put a call into the county saying, hey, what's going on with this money that we've been getting for all these years? Did something happen? Did something change in legislature that I'm not aware of, what's going on? And that's when we learned that Canyon Highway 4 did not levy for a tax that Caldwell gets a part of, we get a part of,
Napa gets a part
Napa
of.
gets a part of, does Star get a part
no.
of that?
They might.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Anyways, they did a special projects levy where Canyon Highway 4 got all the money. But they didn't let anybody know. And so luckily I called, and so our budget's light for '25 because I don't know what they're gonna do next year.
Okay.
So we are talking with Caldwell and Napa. They're looking into it as well. The highway district is actually asking us for a memorandum of agreement that we might want to talk about
Later.
later.
Okay. Couple questions if I could, Jason.
Yeah.
First is the culvert replacement. Are we talking about another metal culvert or are we talking about a concrete box culvert?
I believe both of these are metal culverts.
That's what's in there now.
This was a year and a half ago, we had the small bridge inspections. That report came back with 3 or 4 ones that needed attention. One of them is the Dewey one that we're fixing right now. The next, we have like 3 or 4 left. We had 2 of them in the budget for this year that we're not getting to. We're just not getting to them. We were carrying those over to next year. One of the names in there is actually Highland. That culvert kind of doesn't go anywhere anymore, so we probably won't focus on Highland, but there's another one up on the other side of town. There's 2 of them that are kind of next to each other that I've got.
Providence Avenue culvert
Providence.
and the Highland. Drive.
Providence, and then
Highland.
it is that culvert there, and then a little to the west, if you go a little west, where above Peregrine, where the culvert crosses underneath the roadway. Those are both deteriorating pretty badly, so we're looking at can we slip line or get some sort of line and coating on those? So we've got Civil Dynamics working on what our options for those are. Projects that the goal is to do something in place and not require the full roadway, which is why the Dewey got so expensive. So those were those two capital projects. Do I have anything else in that capital projects list?
So Dewey is planned to be in replaced metal culvert.
Yes, it's actually, we don't have room to do an exactly round metal culvert, and they don't make the size culvert that's there now. So what we are planning is a half arch that will have a concrete footing on both sides and then be arched over the top so that we can fit it between the storm and sewer line immediately below it, and still have clearance between that and the roadway, which is fairly short for it's a tight little spot. So this required a little extra thinking, but it's a good plan. It'll still be a metal something. It'll be a coated metal because we're finding that the irrigation water is pretty hard on metal, so we want something that's got a
I think
coated
that's
metal.
what's the matter with that culvert now is it's rusting away from the
Most-
bottom.
yes.
That's what usually happens to them.
Yep.
So
So,
I agree with you on putting in something that has a footing.
so
That makes a lot more sense, especially with the amount of trucks pulling up down that street. Okay, and the second question I had to do with striping. You're talking about restriping the roadways only, or, because I would really like to see the curbs and gutters repainted.
yes.
I had a real problem on Hawthorne during a baseball tournament. People park directly on the corner. You can't see around there. I realize we've got limited parking there, but for God's sakes, leave the intersections open. So it would be nice, because I have people actually tell me, well, that curb's not painted yellow.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Go over and look real close.
Yes. That could be, I don't have a specific area. I know there's areas in front of Middleton Mill Elementary that could use a good refresh. The area in front of, on Middleton, in front of the Mexican restaurants over there, that, we did that a couple years ago, but it's looking pretty worn already.
Yeah.
And it's not too hard to find places that need updated striping, so.
Time to get the Boy Scouts out there with their paintbrushes.
That is good. Actually, I think that we recently got the road, the Highway 44 section in front of fire hydrants. I think we just tackled that. We've been tackling fire hydrants recently, so
Awesome.
we have some road striping that may have gotten
Okay, so
done.
that's still in your wheelhouse then.
Still,
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
you're welcome.
And Jason, have we touched on wastewater treatment, the capital mechanical treatment section?
We have not,
Okay.
I would,
Is that coming, or am I stepping out of order?
We're gonna try and get there. I'm trying to speed Jason up here.
yes.
Okay.
We actually have a full meeting next Tuesday to talk about wastewater treatment capital things. So I might suggest we spend more of our time tonight on other things, like we're gonna get to water. Wendy's gonna scroll down.
Well, no, I'm gonna go into
Okay.
engineering. I'm
Oh,
gonna stay
yes.
on transportation. Let's go over
Okay.
to engineering so that you get a full picture of transportation, and then we're gonna go to each thing.
Okay.
Thank you,
So
Wendy.
let's speed
I
this
just,
up a little.
The number under decommissioned historical lagoons caught my attention, but we'll defer that to later.
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on over to our engineering tab. And under transportation, line 18, we start with $15,000 in the Midstar CIP update. That's that'll finish that up. We have engineering for the flashing cross lights at Cemetery Road at $60,000. We have straightening Middleton Road construction, Boise to South Highway 40. This is engineering, $50,000. You asked a question about Middleton Road, and so we have engineering in there, straightening that. First Street inlay, 30,000. Jason, I'm not sure what
Yes.
that is. Why don't you touch on that?
There is the possibility that the cemetery road is funded through a strategic grant that came out. We looked very competitive because we had the design completed, and it was something that we could go to construction very quickly on. There is some discussion that there may be future strategic grants opportunities. The word I heard yesterday from somebody was that it didn't get funded in this year's budget, but it may next year. So we don't really know when it's going to come. The one job that jumps out to me, you kind of need to find the right job that looks good to the grant, the people issuing the grant. The one job I would suggest that maybe would make sense would be First Street, the road parallel to Main Street there, really all the way from Dewey to Piccadilly. That was one that was deemed in our roadway plan as kind of too far gone for a seal coat and chip seal, and we don't have any idea how we're really going to fund it. But if your strategic grants kind of needed some tie to the highway system, you could potentially make the case that no matter what they do on the Pell study, whether they go somewhere else and fix up Main Street to a standard that will accept it, or if they do the option where they rebuild Main Street, or they do the couplet that involves Main Street. Any of those probably have some construction on Main Street, and you could make the case that we're getting First Street ready for
Traffic diversion.
So you could tie it into something that the interstate is doing. It makes it a little bit better than just we wanting to pave a street somewhere in the city. So there's a little connection there. It's something we can't fund right now. It's another one of those older streets that we just don't have the couple $1 million it's going to take to do that. So if we put in, this might be something the council would like to look at getting a design completed for, so we have a better cost estimate. So we know what else is going to need to happen with this, because we'll probably need to do water and sewer upgrades that go along with it. There's not a lot of storm in First Street. It tends to go to the alleys, but what all would be involved with a First Street grant, and could we position ourselves well with some advanced engineering dollars to look to be positioned for a strategic grant in the future?
And how much are you asking for the engineering on that?
I was looking at 30,000 as that's probably not going to get the whole thing done, but it might get us a good start. At least tell us what we don't know.
So your recommendation is to get engineering to decide how and where, and then in the future, get cost estimates at the time that we're going to actually do the work, because we know it'll just keep going up, and if we get an estimate now, it won't be.
We can get a concept design done for
Okay.
$30,000, and that'll tell us what the final design cost would be. They'll get us an engineer's estimate that'll be relatively close,
And position us for the grant.
and position us for the grant,
Okay.
is my thinking behind that project.
And then we have engineering for the Dewey culvert for 30,000.
That's really the construction management to go along with the installation of the work.
And then cemetery design construction management, this is on the signal.
And this is all grant fund, just we're pulling some of it into next year's budget.
100,000 in city engineering through Civil D, and then precision engineering 20,000.
Yes, we just tend to need engineer smart people to help us with our road systems here and there and the other place,
And then
so that's
the engineering for the culvert slip line,
Yes.
is that also for construction management, or is that designing?
that's probably just design right there.
Design, okay. And then you've got the Lincoln roundabout, this is Midstar.
Yes.
So this is the 175,000 you had that question,
So,
David.
Jenica, if you could pull up that location, that's probably worth some discussion, but among us all. This is one of those spots that's kind of between everybody else's jurisdiction.
Yeah,
This is, Lincoln Road is the intersection of,
further south, okay.
yeah, further south.
Where's my,
There you go, right there. So I'll use my pointer and try and talk so Mark can maybe has a chance of hearing. The southwest quadrant is Caldwell's area. The north quadrant is Quarry Home, so that's coming into the city, or is part of the city of Middleton. The the east side of Middleton Road, north of Lincoln, is in the city of Middleton's area of impact. So will someday be in ours. Middleton Road currently is all owned and operated by Highway District 4. And so we all kind of have a little bit of a stake in what's happening right there. The solution that everybody thinks is most plausible is to build a roundabout at the South Lincoln Road corner where it goes to the east, where the east side of Lincoln Road comes in. Build a big roundabout there and then have a swoop back on the west side of Lincoln Road that ties into its existing right of way. We have some real rough concepts for that. And what we've talked about is the three of us to kind of get this kick-started is that if Highway District 4 and the city of Middleton split the engineering costs at the beginning, which we're guessing would be about $350,000, so about $175 a piece. And then Caldwell will be responsible for the right-of-way acquisition necessary to make this happen. And that's because you're going to need to buy a portion of the southeast corner of the East Lincoln branch and probably a little bit of property on the north side. And that property will mostly be owned by Caldwell. So Caldwell will be purchasing kind of the right-of-way phase, while the Highway District and us will fund the design. That works out because both the Highway District and us can use impact fee funds for this. I don't think that Caldwell has an impact fee that includes this right now. They also have some utilities going through there, so they need to do some utility design to go with it. So it makes sense for Caldwell to be the lead on this project. So they will hold the contract with the designer, and they have a draft memorandum of understanding that they sent over to the city, us, and Highway District 4 that we could all get on the same page with. But what's before you in this budget is our portion of that contribution that will allow this to start moving forward.
Who's gonna pay for the roundabout itself? I mean,
Yes, we haven't finalized that. The quarry is on the hook for some of it. They have Caldwell has a developer or has some sort of development agreement on this southeast corner that may be being renewed. That's in there. It's on a federal corridor in our area, so we could apply for some federal funds possibly to do this. But generally, and it's also impact fee eligible, so we have some options. The MOU does not talk about construction funding at this point. We're just talking about getting this designed, figuring out what right-of-way we need and buying the right-of-way, and then recognizing that we'll need to all somehow get to construction at some point in the future.
Canadian Highway 4 ought to just take over. They just took all the tax money.
Entirely possible.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Got to play ball for.
Councilmember O'Meara.
I'm having trouble with understanding why we don't just put Lincoln Road up to raise the east side of Lincoln Road up to the west side of Lincoln Road rather than making a whole new road on the other side. Why don't we just make a turn right there at the park site and make that an intersection?
Aligning it with the east side on the south spot made a couple good things for a couple reasons. Number one, there's Ward Memorial Park along Lincoln Road, which would be a real hassle to get to because it's a state park and parks are hard to acquire right away for, so that's one aspect. You're kind of, in this way, you take more property from the Caldwell side and realign that roadway going east, which is kind of the bare land right now, rather than this spot where you need to acquire all that land from the gravel pit that's sort of actively in place. So that's the reason behind realigning that intersection to the south at the South Lincoln, not at the North Lincoln.
Well, the upside is that once they finish their 26 project down there, traffic coming off Lincoln onto Middleton is going to decrease significantly. Because a lot of the traffic you get on Lincoln is people trying to dodge a pile up at 26 and Middleton. So once that starts moving more smoothly, that traffic's going to die down. It's going to be a lower priority for now. In the near future, a lower priority.
Yes.
That Joplin Road intersection they just put in sure makes it easier to get around that Middleton Road.
Anything else on that section we should talk about?
Well,
thank you.
if we're done with this section, I'd
Yeah.
like to take a 2 or 3 minute break, maybe stretch or 5 minutes if we could. So it is, 7:06?
Yeah.
Okay.
Come back at 7:10? 7:15 we'll be back.
Thank you.
That's 8 minutes. Oh. Do we have to go off record?